Welcome back to the Titanium Hangar. This is Mike. Happy Friday, everybody. I hope everyone is doing well. Today I want to talk to you about Masterpiece Transformers and how much damage is acceptable for these high-end Masterpiece Transformers that we are paying so much money for. And if you kind of brought this up, I've already talked about a lot of different damage that we've seen in the past to individual figures, but as an entire concept, what should we tolerate and what should we not? What makes us go overboard? What's just general expectations? What's being too picky? Well, I'm going to break this down into a few different categories. We're going to discuss this and more coming up. Okay, so I'm going to talk about four categories. Is it broken from the manufacturer? Did you open up the box, pull out of the box, it's broken. Number two, is it misassembled? Did they do something wrong? You got to go back and reassemble it properly yourself, which happens all the time, by the way. And then paint chipping, is that a big deal? What's the level of paint chipping we can accept? And then, of course, what happens if you break it? So I feel like a lot of people felt like their MP44, either they broke it or it was broken. The knee was broken out of the box. So they pulled it out of the box and their knee didn't work right. So that's what I'm hearing, that or during the transformation. And it's really hard to ascertain that because it comes in alt mode. So you had to transform it. So a lot of people are saying that it wasn't transformed properly and all of those kinds of things. But I truly believe that if you got a good one or you got a bad one. Now, some people could prove me wrong and say, yeah, my knee worked for 3 clicks and then all of a sudden it stopped working. So that's true too. That stuff's kind of happened either way. But in this case, there should be some sort of fix, some sort of repair, replacement part sent out, or you should be able to send it back and get another one. And another one of the problems with this figure sold out. You see the return process to Amazon. I heard it was a nightmare, but I never had to mess with returning any of mine yet. And I don't use Amazon Japan anymore for a lot of different reasons. But for the most part, I don't want to mess with their return. Or if I have a problem, I just don't know what to do anymore. So, and when it comes to Takara, I don't even know what to do. I still have not found a solid solution to if you have a broken Takara item other than send it back to your distributor. So yes, broken right out of the box or broken figures, it happens. And I see this, and a lot of times people don't even believe when somebody's complaining about their figure being broken or it arrived broken. But even though they show pictures of it and stuff, people are like, no, you broke that. But I can see it. I mean, there is a defect rate. We all calculate manufacturing defect rate, either, what is it, about 1%, 0.5%, 1.5%, somewhere in there. But if there's 5,000 figures getting made, then 50 are going to be broken. And those 50 people with broken figures, they are going to have the largest voice, the loudest voice. They're going to say the most about it because they had the problem. So next up we have Misassembled. The manufacturer misassembled it. They didn't assemble it properly. And this is a big deal because it's not just like you're buying a Star Wars Black Series or a Marvel Legends figure and they misassembled it and just flip it around or something, whatever. There's ways to get around all that kind of stuff easier than with a Transformer. But the good part about Transformers is most of them are assembled with screws, or pins, but screws. And so they're not sonic welded like a Marvel Legend or a Star Wars Black Series. Those are sonic welded together, and a lot of times you really can't swap those parts out and fix it. But still, with this $60-something figure from Transform Element, the Mirage, a fantastic figure, looks amazing, but came misassembled. It was a small little 5-minute ordeal to unscrew, flip around, rescrew in. Not a big deal, but I did mine. I don't even remember how to do it anymore, to tell you the truth. So I was kind of looking up how did we do this back in the day, but it's not a big deal. But it would have been a big deal if you tried to transform it and it didn't all line up right and you were pushing harder. You could have broken something. So it was one of those things that you had to fix on your own. They weren't recalling it or anything, and that's fine. They didn't need to recall it. As long as you get the instructions out, we unscrew 2 screws, flip things around and screw them back in. Not a big deal. Especially for a $63 figure. I had a misassembled part. Well, actually the wrong part. Like the 2 rights, I guess. Didn't make a left. So I got the part from Shozi. No problem whatsoever. Quick, easy. It took like 6 seconds to swap out. It was no big deal. But the fact that this part was wrong made it to where I could not actually put that cover on the back and make it look more tuned and clean. So that was kind of a pain in the butt. Had we not gone to put that cover on, I never would have noticed it. If I wasn't trying to put the cover on it, I never ever would have noticed this was misassembled and it was a problem. But still, I don't really feel that was a big deal. I mean, $130 figure compared to $240, and it's got a great aesthetic and all of that, and they included those extra parts for free. So I was pretty happy with it, but it did take several weeks to get that part. Speaking of deformation space, there's a lot of paint shipping that is on those, or paint applications improperly applied, smudging, smearing, and all this. And I'm sure it has to go with them trying to hit the price point, trying to get them manufactured as fast as they can and get them out the door. Now, there's a lot of reasons why they did that. I'll probably go into that next week. But the thing about this is that this is a fantastic looking figure, a great price, but now we get into paint problems. Now, how much will you tolerate? If you have a fantastic looking figure and you got a scratch or a smudge on your figure, then what? Are you going to send the whole thing back? Or are you going to try to request a replacement part or leg or foot or hand or whatever has a scratch on it? I mean, that's a possibility. That is something that you could technically do. See, we get into this MP44, and that brings a whole other question up. If you transform this 3-4 times, you're going to have paint chipping on the waist and other places. I've only transformed mine once, and it was on camera. And I have to tell you that I don't ever want to transform it again. That's the truth. But I have no problems with mine. I don't flip it back and forth a lot. And I don't think Masterpiece Transformers are made to be flipped back and forth 30, 40 times. They're not a mainline Hasbro figure. And so with that, you're taking on that responsibility. If you want to flip it back and forth 30 times, and that expectation, you got to know you're going to chip some paint. Even Imgo chips paint when he flips them back and forth so many times. But yes, a lot of people chip their paint on this. On the waist piece, anything that moves, that comes in contact with anything else, has the ability to chip paint. It's unsightly, it's ugly, and it's sad, but it's what's going to happen if you flip your Masterpiece Transformers back and forth a lot, all of the time. So what happens if you break your own figure? Like, you've got it, and you're using it like normal. It's just like normal. You're following the instructions step by step, and a wheel falls off. Like on mine, the wheel fell off. And the thing about it is that if that happens, service after the sale, they need to send you a part. But see, here's one of the problems. They make you pay for shipping or whatever. So you're technically out like 10 or 13 bucks, depending on where you are, or what the part is, and all that kind of stuff, to get an extra part, even if you didn't do anything wrong. Now, I'm glad the part availability is there, and I know these are higher end figures, and I know there are people that are going to abuse that process. So with that, I understand, okay, I'm okay with you charging me 10 bucks because I understand other people would abuse it better than not getting that part at all. So I'm happy with that, especially if I broke it myself. But I'm a little frustrated if I really didn't add too much pressure, apply a whole lot of pressure. I mean, when I break something and I apply a ton of pressure and I knew I shouldn't have, that's my fault. When I barely touch something and it falls off, that's a shocker. I heard a lot of people breaking Hound by transforming it like normal, and just the parts seem to melt apart. I don't know how to explain it. And I've seen people do it, and I've seen the parts broken, but it's crazy because this figure here was so brittle. My KO feels pretty solid. It feels every bit as brittle as the original, but I had no problem transforming it, no problem. Every time I added some pressure to it, I never felt like anything was going to break. And I was really, really careful because I was thinking maybe the KO would even be worse quality. It might be better quality overall, like plastic-wise, and that might be why I could be a little more rough with it. But still, it's one of those things that Takara is plagued with, and I think they're fixing it, though. People are scared of their MP09, that it's going to break, and shoulders, knees, and all that, ankles, all that kind of stuff. So I'm one of those people, too. I actually bought a broken one, and I was able to kind of reverse engineer how everything worked for the transformation by transforming the top half and the bottom half, and then clipping them together. I think I did it right, but it was kind of a fun transformation. I got the thing for like next to nothing. So it's one of those things where it's kind of good and bad in a way. You can find someone else's broken one and possibly fix it. There were some other parts ones floating around. You could have pieced together another one, but maybe that's not something you want to do. So how does this affect the companies? And how does our behavior, our response to these problems affect the companies? Well, first of all, I want to say Fans Toys, for the most part, does a great job with the service after the sale. Very few of their figures have I broken, and I've paint chipped a few of them, but not to the point where it just really bothers me looking at it on the shelf. And I think a lot of the paint chipping, lack of paint chipping, is because it's plied very well. And I don't know if they put a clear coat on it or something or whatever for more protection. But there's also the use of plastic in certain areas that they know there could be paint chipping. So there's a lot of good things that come in there. Now I do want to say on their Sheridan, they did have the wrong screw or a problem with the knee where it needed a new screw and all that kind of stuff. Now I didn't have a problem with my Sheridan, but I wanted that screw, but they said if I didn't have the problem, I don't get the screw. So I feel like I got screwed in a way. So if I have a problem down the road, how do I get that screw? I don't know. Obviously, several issues with MP44 and then the Hound, of course, with Takara. And so with that, I still don't have a solution on if you have a Takara problem other than send it back to your distributor. And a lot of times, if you're ordering it from, say, Amazon Japan or something along that line, you might not get another replacement. They might be sold out before the new one comes in and that kind of stuff too. So I don't really know what to say when it comes to Takara, but I think they're getting better. Like everything I've gotten from them lately is solid. I don't have any real problems or breakage or any of that kind of stuff or super paint chipping or anything. So I think they have fixed some of their issues. And we're talking high-end figures here, so obviously we have issues. Issues with having breakage and paint issues. Of course, X-Transbots takes the cake with this cup. And a lot of people were saying in the lock figure, it's a piece of trash, garbage, whatever, and it broke, this, that, and another. I understand that. I understand that it had a lot of problems from the get-go, from day one. And I watched other people's videos and read some stuff online about broken parts and pieces and all that stuff. So I was super careful with mine, but I didn't transform it. In fact, I even tested all of the parts that they said are possible breakage areas, and I found that my hip would not move. The same exact hip that's broken here would not move on mine, so I did not try to transform it. In fact, I was really careful with every aspect of this figure because I've seen all of these pictures of broken stuff online and a little nervous, a little scared. Even operating it as just an action figure, you could break it, the version 1. But I will commend X-Transbots for recalling every single one of these figures and then offering replacements to those who got the version 1. And so with that, I ended up with 2 figures. One that's more or less a statue, a slightly posable statue, and one that works fine. So they did fix it, they did remold some parts. It's not the exact same figure, there's quite a few different parts on there, and I'm sure they did that for 2 reasons. 1, so they could fix problems. 2, so if you try to send your version 1 back and say, oh, now I got problems with version 2, they're like, oh, they're not the same figure. So it's smart of them, and it's really good of them. And then right after this, we got that massive blitz of like 70 figures that are coming. So here's what I've got to say about collectors and our expectations and how much damage we should expect. If it arrives broken, you need to contact your distributor and let them know about it. And then from that point, you need to find out if you could fix it yourself and just get that part. Because you may not actually be able to get a replacement figure. It might be too late. You might try to get a replacement figure, send yours off, and then by the time they want to send you out another one, they're sold out. So there's a lot of different issues there. Plus the fact that if it's something simple, you can just get a part, then I don't see a problem with that. Now, I know a lot of other people feel differently than that, but if you can replace it yourself, I don't see why not. Well, I do understand trying to drill out a pin or I tapped out a pin. You don't drill it, you tap it out. And I tapped out my pin. That was very challenging, and it was scary because I felt like I was going to chip all the paint off everything, but it worked after a while. There's actually tools you can use, which obviously we shouldn't have to have those tools. There are tools you can get. And if it's completely broken, I mean, just bad design, poor quality. I mean, obviously, you're spending a lot of money on these, like this $300 Megatron. It shouldn't have a cracked crotch. And at the end of the day, no cracked crotch, you need a new figure. And I really don't even know if that's a part you could just swap out and replace, which it probably is. But were they sending these parts out? Because I don't think they were. I actually think that we had a whole lot of issues with a whole lot of Beast Wars Megatrons with cracked crotches. And Takara didn't really take care of their customer. I think you mailed them back to the distributor and they took the hit. By the way, my KO is just fine, has no cracked crotch. So I want to know what you guys think about this issue with how much damage should we accept as collectors? And at what point do we mail it back? At what point do we say, I'll fix it ourselves? We'll fix it ourselves. I have the ability to utilize a screwdriver. At what point will certain figures no longer exist and you will not be able to get a replacement or a replacement part? And has quality issues like this made you completely write off any of these companies? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Everybody enjoy their Friday. Talk to you, man. Hanger out.
Talk to me. Fix me. Sure, cop.
George Chemo Service, your smashed up friends soon like brand new with 90-day warranty.
You're all alive.